0200 hours, submerged 50 feet below the surface, off the western reef of the occupied atoll. The ocean is pitch black, a suffocating void of crushing pressure and freezing currents. Bioluminescent plankton drifts past the hull of the attack submarine like microscopic stars in a liquid sky. Inside the flooded lockout chamber, 4 special operators check their rebreathers in the cramped darkness. The only sound is the rhythmic hiss of oxygen cycling through the closed-circuit loops. The water in the chamber presses against their wetsuits, cold and heavy. The green light on the console flickers once. The outer hatch wheel spins. A sudden pressure equalization pops their ears. The hatch swings open, revealing the abyss. The divers kick out into the open ocean. They glide through the black water like sharks hunting in the gloom. Handheld propulsion vehicles pull them forward against the strong tidal drag. They reach the seabed. Jagged coral looms out of the darkness like skeletal fingers. A thick, armored cable snakes across the white sand. The island's secure communication lifeline to the mainland. The lead diver draws a pneumatic cutter. He latches it onto the cable. The jaws clamp down. Metal shears through thick rubber insulation. The cutter bites into the copper core. The cable snaps. It whips back into the sand, dead. The team advances toward the reef. Dark spherical shapes float tethered to the ocean floor. The naval minefield. The divers split into pairs. They approach the rusting iron casings with agonizing slowness. Hands move with practiced, lethal precision. They attach magnetic limpet mines to the anchor chains. A low thrumming vibration shakes the water. The divers freeze. Above, the hull of an enemy patrol boat slices the surface. The screw churns the water, sending a vortex of bubbles and noise down toward them. The turbulence thrashes the divers. They grip the sharp coral to stay anchored. The boat passes overhead. The sound fades into the distance. The team leader signals. They arm the detonators. Digital timers flash red in the murk. They kick away, retreating back into the safety of the deep trench. 2 miles out, they stop. The leader presses the remote trigger. A dull thump concusses the water. A shockwave ripples through the dark, hitting their chests like a hammer. On the seabed, the tethered mines detonate in a violent chain reaction. Plumes of silt and debris shoot toward the surface. The underwater explosion blows a massive 300-meter gap in the defensive wall. The path to the beach is open. 430 hours, flight deck, aircraft carrier 100 miles east of the objective. The vast steel deck is a hive of controlled chaos under the starlight. Steam from the hydraulic catapults swirls in the stiff ocean breeze, mixing with the sharp chemical scent of jet fuel. Yellow-shirted deck handlers wave illuminated wands in the gloom, guiding massive gray shapes into position. The roar of idling jet engines drowns out the sound of the ocean crashing against the hull below. A fighter jet sits locked onto the catapult shuttle, its wings spread like a bird of prey. The afterburners glow an angry orange against the black sky. The pilot inside the cockpit checks his instruments. He snaps a salute. On the deck, the shooter drops to one knee and points forward. The jet engine screams, rising to a deafening high-pitched whine that vibrates the bones of every sailor on deck. The holdback bar strains against the immense tension. Steam explodes. The catapult slams the fighter jet forward. It tears down the runway, accelerating from 0 to 160 miles per hour in 2 seconds. The G-force crushes the pilot into his seat. The jet hurls off the bow, dips slightly, and claws its way into the night sky. Another jet roars behind it, then another. Within minutes, the squadron punches through the cloud layer. 20,000 feet above the ocean, the air is thin and cold. The moon illuminates the canopy. The formation tightens. Suddenly, the radar warning receiver inside the lead jet shrieks. Red icons clutter the digital display. 4 enemy fighters dive from the north, attempting to ambush the fleet before dawn. The flight lead breaks hard right. "Engaging," he says into the mask. He toggles the weapon release. A medium-range air-to-air missile drops from the wing and ignites. The solid rocket motor flares blindingly bright. It streaks across the dark void, trailing a distinct line of white smoke. The enemy jets scatter, breaking formation in a desperate starburst pattern. Flares pop from their tails, burning hot magnesium to confuse the sensors. The missile ignores the decoys. It corrects its course. It slams into the lead enemy fuselage. The explosion shreds the titanium skin. Fire instantly engulfs the engine intake. The enemy jet disintegrates in a massive ball of expanding orange flame. A wing shears off, spinning wildly into the darkness. The American wingman rolls inverted and dives. He forces the remaining bandits into a lower altitude trap. He locks a second target. He squeezes the trigger. The cannon roars, a chainsaw sound that vibrates the airframe. Tracers stitch a line of fire across the enemy's canopy. The glass shatters. The enemy pilot slumps. The plane pitches nose down and spirals uncontrollably toward the sea. The remaining 2 enemy aircraft ignite their afterburners. They turn and flee back toward the mainland, abandoning the airspace. Burning wreckage splashes into the ocean far below, sending geysers of white water into the air. The American squadron banks left, forming a protective combat air patrol circle. The sky above the fleet belongs to them. 500 hours, Combat Information Center, guided missile destroyer. The windowless room is bathed in a dim, eerie blue light. Sailors hunch over glowing radar consoles, their faces illuminated by the scrolling data. The ship cuts through the heavy swells, rocking rhythmically. The hum of the ventilation system mixes with the quiet murmur of coordinate verifications. The captain stands behind the weapons officer, arms crossed, watching the main tactical display. The red icons on the screen represent the island's radar sites. The fire control officer lifts the plastic safety cover. He inserts the firing key into the console and turns it to the right. On the foredeck, outside in the salt spray, heavy steel hatches flip open with a metallic clank. The vertical launch cells yawn wide. "Batteries release," the officer says flatly. The first cruise missile ignites. A massive pillar of fire blasts from the tube, illuminating the entire ship. The weapon screams skyward, trailing a thick plume of white exhaust. The destroyer shudders violently from the recoil. Another missile follows instantly, then another. 12 distinct streaks of fire arc over the horizon, turning the pre-dawn sky into a burning grid of acceleration. 50 miles away on the occupied atoll, the air raid sirens begin to wail. The sound is weak against the approaching roar. The missiles dip low, skimming just feet above the wave tops to evade detection. They cross the beach at subsonic speeds. The lead missile slams directly into the primary search radar dish. The warhead detonates on impact. The explosion vaporizes the steel lattice structure. A fireball engulfs the control shack. Shrapnel shreds the surrounding camouflage netting and cuts down the fleeing operators. A second missile dives into the anti-air battery command center. It punches through the reinforced concrete roof like a fist through drywall. It detonates inside. The bunker lifts off its foundation. The walls blow out in a cloud of dust and pulverized cement. Fire sucks the oxygen from the complex in a split second. A third missile overshoots slightly and strikes the ammunition storage for the surface-to-air launchers. The secondary explosion is cataclysmic. A shockwave ripples through the jungle, snapping palm trees in half. The fuel depot nearby catches a stray burning fragment. The tank ruptures. Thousands of gallons of aviation fuel ignite, creating a rolling wall of heat that scorches the earth black. Back on the destroyer, the captain watches the drone feed. Thermal cameras show white-hot blooms of expanding heat where the enemy defenses stood. "Target index Alpha destroyed," the tactical officer reports. "Air corridor is clear." On the island, thick black smoke billows into the gray morning sky, choking the air. Twisted metal beams groan as they collapse into the burning craters. The enemy is blind. 5:30 hours, cockpit of the lead attack helicopter skimming 20 feet above the wave tops. The rising sun paints the horizon in bruised shades of purple and orange. Thick black smoke from the earlier missile strikes hangs over the island, mixing with the morning mist to create a gray haze. The rotor blades chop the humid air with a violent, rhythmic thumping that shakes the entire fuselage. Inside the narrow glass cockpit, the gunner stares intently at the green glow of the thermal display. The ocean below is a blur of rushing dark water. A line of yellow tracers erupts from the jungle tree line. The rounds zip past the canopy, cracking like whips. The pilot banks hard left. The helicopter nose dips forward, accelerating into the attack run. The gunner squeezes the butterfly triggers. The 30mm chain gun mounted under the nose roars. It spins, spitting heavy shells at a rate of 10 per second. The rounds tear into the sandbagged machine gun nest on the beach. Sandbags explode. The enemy gunner disappears in a red mist and a cloud of flying dirt. The weapon falls silent, barrel smoking. The pilot lines up a concrete pillbox overlooking the landing zone. He fires a salvo of unguided rockets. The pods on the stub wings flash. Rockets streak forward, trailing gray smoke. They impact the bunker face in a cluster. The concrete shatters. The explosion blows the heavy steel door off its hinges, tumbling it down the dunes. Dust billows out from the firing slits. A second helicopter sweeps in low behind the first. It unleashes a laser-guided missile. The weapon slams into a wooden watchtower. The structure splinters instantly. Wood and metal fly in all directions. The tower collapses into the surf, dragging the spotlight down with it. Enemy soldiers scramble from the ruins, firing assault rifles wildly at the sky. The chain gun traverses. It tracks them. The heavy rounds chew up the ground, walking a line of destruction across the sand. The soldiers fall, cut down by the impacts. A mortar crew attempts to load a tube. The helicopter strafes them. The mortar tube bends under the kinetic force. The ammunition pile next to them cooks off, creating a secondary blast that throws bodies into the air. "LZ cold," the pilot calls over the radio. The flight breaks off, banking sharply out to sea to rearm. Behind them, the beach is a smoldering ruin. The fortifications are broken and silent. The defensive line is shattered. 600 hours, 500 yards off Beach Alpha. The ocean churns into a white froth. Heavy diesel fumes hang low over the water, mixing with the acrid cordite smoke drifting from the burning island. A massive wall of steel advances through the waves. The amphibious assault vehicles bob and surge, their tracks churning the water into foam. Inside the cramped troop compartments, Marines grip their rifles. The hull plates vibrate violently with the roar of the engines. Salt spray coats the vision blocks. The rhythmic crashing of the waves provides a deceptive rhythm to the chaos about to unfold. On the dune line, movement flickers in the ruined bunkers. A surviving enemy officer screams orders pointing toward the surf. A single green tracer round arcs over the water. Then the whole jungle erupts. Bullets hammer the front armor of the lead vehicle. Sparks shower the driver's vision block. The sound is like hail on a tin roof, magnified 1,000 times. The vehicle grinds onto the wet sand. The tracks bite into the earth. It lurches forward, crushing driftwood and razor wire obstacles under its immense weight. An anti-tank rocket streaks from the tree line. It strikes the second vehicle in the formation. The explosion rips the left track off. The heavy metal links fly into the air like shrapnel. The vehicle spins sideways, burning. Black smoke pours from the engine grate. Marines spill out of the top hatches, diving into the surf to escape the flames. The lead vehicle drops its rear ramp. The hydraulic whine is lost in the cacophony of war. A squad charges out into the knee-deep water. Boots splash violently. A machine gun burst cuts the water in front of them, spraying geysers of sand and foam. One Marine jerks backward, his shoulder plate shattered by a round. He falls into the wash. A medic grabs his drag handle and hauls him toward the cover of the vehicle's steel flank. The platoon commander dives behind a concrete barrier. He keys his radio, shouting over the noise of the battle. He orders the vehicle gunner to suppress the eastern flank. The turret on the lead assault vehicle spins. The automatic grenade launcher on top begins to thump rhythmically. High explosive rounds arc over the beach. They impact the enemy trench line in a rapid sequence. Dirt, sandbags, and bodies fly into the air. The enemy machine gun falls silent. More vehicles crash through the surf, engines roaring as they hit the beach. They fan out, forming a jagged wall of armor. Infantry squads flood the sand, sprinting in bounds. They fire as they move. The air is thick with flying sand and the snap of supersonic bullets. The beach is a chaotic mosaic of burning metal, churning tracks, and shouting men. The first wave is ashore, but the sand is already stained red. 645 hours, the base of the seawall. The concrete barrier looms 10 feet high, scarred by shrapnel and blackened by soot. It blocks the only exit from the beach. The tide creeps higher, mixing salt water with the blood pooling in the depressed tire tracks. Marines press flat against the wet sand berm, pinned down by grazing fire from the pillboxes above. The air screams with the whine of ricochets hitting the concrete. The noise is constant, a deafening wall of sound that vibrates the chest. 2 combat engineers break cover from a destroyed vehicle. They sprint across the 20 yards of open sand. Heavy canvas satchels bounce against their hips. Dust kicks up around their boots as enemy marksmen track them. One engineer stumbles, a bullet tearing through his sleeve, but he scrambles forward on adrenaline. They reach the dead angle at the base of the wall. They jam blocks of plastic explosive into the drainage weep holes. They tape detonation cord loops to the reinforced pillars. Hands move in a blur of practiced motion. The fuse is primed. The lead engineer yanks the igniter pin. They turn and roll away, diving headfirst into a muddy shell crater. The detonation cracks the sky. A massive 30-foot section of the wall disintegrates. Chunks of concrete the size of cars are hurled into the air, spinning end over end. Rebar snaps like dry twigs. A thick cloud of gray dust and pulverized rock engulfs the breach. The shockwave knocks the wind out of the nearby riflemen. "Go! Move!" the squad leader bellows, his voice cracking. Marines surge up from the sand. They charge straight into the choking smoke. They scramble over the jagged pile of rubble. The point man crests the debris. He spots an enemy trench line on the other side. He raises his rifle. He fires 3 rapid shots. An enemy soldier drops. The rest of the squad pours through the gap, their boots sliding on the loose rocks. They fan out into the palm grove, weapons raised. The bottleneck is broken. 0730 hours. The jungle perimeter bordering the beachhead. The air is heavy with the smell of wet earth and cordite. Marines crouch in shallow foxholes, reloading magazines and drinking water from canteens. The ground begins to tremble. Dust vibrates on the casing of a discarded ammunition box. The sound of snapping timber echoes from the dense foliage. It grows louder, a grinding mechanical roar that drowns out the distant gunfire. 3 enemy main battle tanks smash through the vegetation. They flatten full-grown palm trees like matchsticks. Camouflage netting drags from their reactive armor tiles. The lead tank brakes violently, its tracks tearing deep ruts into the soft soil. The turret swivels with a menacing hydraulic whine. The 125mm smoothbore cannon erupts. A massive fireball blooms from the muzzle. The shockwave flattens the tall grass for 50 yards. The high-explosive shell impacts a sandbagged heavy weapon position. The explosion vaporizes the emplacement. Dirt, sandbags, and tripod parts rain down on the surrounding squads. A Humvee flips onto its side from the blast force, glass shattering. "Tank, front!" a sergeant screams, pointing a frantic hand. A marine weapons specialist shoulders a heavy anti-tank guided missile launcher. He braces his elbows on a fallen log. He peers through the thermal sight. The seeker head tones. He locks the target. He squeezes the firing mechanism. The missile pops out of the tube with a soft hiss. The flight motor ignites a split second later. The weapon streaks upward, arcing high above the battlefield. It reaches its apex and dives vertically. It slams directly into the thin top armor of the lead tank. The shaped charge punches through the steel. The ammunition carousel inside detonates. The explosion is catastrophic. The multi-ton turret lifts off the hull, spinning in the air before crashing upside down in the mud. A pillar of white fire shoots 50 feet into the sky from the open hatch. The second tank slews its hull, trying to reverse. Its coaxial machine gun sprays the tree line. Bullets shred the leaves and bark. A squad of Marines pops up from the flank. They fire 2 unguided anti-tank rockets simultaneously. The warheads strike the tank's rear engine deck. Black smoke belches from the exhaust. The engine dies. The tank shudders and stops, dead in the water. The third tank fires smoke grenades. Thick white phosphorus clouds engulf the vehicle. It retreats blindly back into the jungle shadow, abandoning the burning wrecks of its platoon. The counterattack is broken. 08:15 hours, the Garrison Housing District. Narrow concrete alleyways wind between rows of 2-story barrack blocks. Laundry lines still hang between windows, shirts fluttering ghost-like in the breeze. The air smells of pulverized drywall and raw sewage from broken mains. Broken glass crunches under heavy combat boots as a squad of Marines moves in a stack formation. They press their bodies against the graffiti-covered walls. The point man scans the upper windows, his rifle barrel tracing the roofline. The silence is tight, magnified by the rhythmic dripping of water from a ruptured pipe. A curtain twitches on the second floor of the target building. The squad leader nods once. The breacher steps forward. He places a strip of explosive tape on the doorframe. He squeezes the clacker. The charge detonates. The wooden door splinters inward in a cloud of smoke. The point man pulls the pin on a flashbang grenade and tosses it into the hallway. A blinding white flash pops. The squad flows into the room, weapons raised. An enemy soldier lunges from the kitchen doorway. He fires his submachine gun blindly. Rounds impact the point man's ceramic chest plate. The Marine staggers back from the kinetic force but stays upright. He double taps his trigger. 2 rounds strike the enemy in the center mass. The hostile crumples to the linoleum floor, sliding against the cabinets. Gunfire erupts from the stairwell landing above. Bullets chew up the wooden banister. Plaster dust explodes from the ceiling, raining down on the team. The Marines press into the cover of the living room walls. The squad automatic gunner pivots his heavy weapon upward toward the ceiling. He holds the trigger down. The belt feeds rapidly. The heavy rounds punch through the floorboards, shredding the enemy position from below. The firing upstairs stops abruptly. "Moving!" the team leader shouts. 2 Marines sprint up the smoke-filled stairs. They stack on the master bedroom door. The lead Marine kicks it open. An enemy combatant stands by the window, reaching for a grenade on the desk. The Marine fires. The bullet strikes the enemy's shoulder. The body spins. The grenade drops to the floor, pin still inserted. The enemy falls back through the glass window, crashing onto the corrugated tin roof below. "Room clear!" the Marine yells, scanning the corners. "Building secure!" The squad leader marks the front doorway with a green chemical light. He waves the team forward. They exit the back door, moving into the alley to hit the next block. Down the street, another explosion rocks a neighboring complex, blowing the shutters off the windows. The fight for the settlement is a slow, bloody grind. 0900 hours. The entrance to the Central Command bunker, dug deep into the basalt rock of the island's peak. The air is thick with concrete dust and the acrid smell of burning electronics. The massive steel blast door, painted in chipped gray industrial enamel, stands dented but sealed tight. Black scorch marks fan out from the hinges where earlier rocket attacks failed. A team of special operators stacks against the tunnel wall, their breathing heavy and synchronized. Water drips from a severed conduit overhead, hitting the floor with a steady, echoing plink. The only light comes from the red laser sights cutting through the gloom. The breacher steps forward. He slaps a thick sheet of plastic explosive directly onto the locking mechanism. He jams a detonator into the putty. "Fire in the hole," he states calmly. The team turns their backs. The explosion is a sharp, concussive crack that sucks the air out of the tunnel. The heavy steel door shears off its hinges. It slams backward into the corridor, crushing a wooden crate. Smoke billows out. The point man enters first. He holds a heavy ballistic shield with one arm. A pistol extends from the side. An enemy machine gun erupts from the darkness inside. Bullets hammer the shield face. The reinforced glass visor cracks in a spiderweb pattern. The point man grunts, bracing his shoulder, sliding backward on the grid, but staying upright. Sparks shower off the shield like a grinding wheel. The operator behind him leans out. He pumps a tactical shotgun. He fires 3 times. The heavy slugs tear into the sandbag emplacement at the end of the hall. The enemy gunner drops, his chest armor shattered. The machine gun falls silent. The team flows into the command center. It is a large, circular room filled with glowing screens and tactical maps. Enemy officers scramble, drawing sidearms. They flip tables for cover. A frag grenade arcs through the air. It bounces once on the concrete floor. It rolls under the central tactical table. The blast lifts the heavy table into the air. Papers and maps scatter like confetti. 2 officers are thrown against the wall, limp. The assault team moves methodically. They sweep left and right. Double taps ring out, short controlled bursts. An enemy radio operator tries to smash a hard drive with a rifle butt. A single shot strikes his helmet. He collapses over the console. Sparks fly from a shattered monitor. The enemy commander stands alone at the back of the room. He raises a pistol. 3 red laser dots converge on his chest. 3 rifles fire simultaneously. The commander jerks violently. He falls backward, crashing into the main communications rack. He slides to the floor, leaving a smear of bright red blood on the metal server case. The room falls silent. The only sound is the static hiss from a hanging radio handset swinging gently on its cord. The screen showing the island's defensive grid flickers and dies. 1,000 hours, the main runway of the captured airfield. The tropical sun beats down on the cracked asphalt, creating shimmering heat waves. The sounds of combat have faded, replaced by the distant crackle of cooling metal and the steady ocean breeze. Marines sit on their rucksacks along the tarmac edge, drinking water and wiping grime from their faces. Their uniforms are stiff with salt and dried sweat. Near the wrecked terminal building, a bulldozer pushes debris and burning wreckage off the center line. The strip is ugly, but it is open. A young corporal climbs the rusted steel ladder on the side of the control tower. He reaches the roof. He draws his combat knife. He slashes the halyard, holding the enemy flag. The fabric falls, drifting down to the concrete below. He pulls a folded American flag from his cargo pocket. He clips the brass hooks onto the rope. He pulls the line hand over hand. The Stars and Stripes shoots up the pole. The wind catches it instantly. The bright red, white, and blue fabric snaps open, billowing violently against the backdrop of gray smoke. Below, a group of tired infantrymen stand up. They watch the flag reach the peak. One raises a fist. A deep, vibrating rumble shakes the ground. It is not artillery. A massive transport plane drops out of the clouds on final approach. Its shadow sweeps across the cratered runway. The heavy landing gear locks down. The tires screech as they impact the tarmac. Blue smoke puffs from the rubber. The pilot reverses the engines. The turbines roar, slowing the massive gray bird. The nose dips. It taxis to the end of the strip and turns. The rear cargo ramp drops while the engines are still whining. Navy corpsmen sprint toward the open ramp. They carry stretchers. On the first litter, a wounded Marine lies pale, his leg wrapped tightly in a tourniquet. An IV bag swings above him, held by a medic running alongside. They rush him up the metal ramp into the dark belly of the aircraft. Another stretcher follows, then another. The flight nurses inside secure the litters to the floor stanchions. From the other side of the ramp, a forklift drives out. It carries a heavy pallet wrapped in plastic. Cases of water and ammunition boxes stack high. A fresh squad of troops runs down the ramp, rifles in hand, ready to relieve the assault force. The transport plane engines throttle up again. The noise is deafening. Dust swirls. The island is secure.